Jace Rowan woke to white light and pain. Cold air cut through his flight suit like a knife. His breath came out as smoke. The wreck of his interceptor, the UEF Peregrine, lay around him in broken ribs of metal. Panels hissed. Cables hung like burned vines. Above, a strange sky spread wide, full of hard stars and 2 pale moons. Nothing looked familiar. His neural HUD blinked on and off like a dying eye. Status text jittered. Contusions. Possible concussion. Core temperature dropping. Emergency beacon, damaged. Location, unknown. The wind howled across the ice and pushed fine snow into his face. He tasted copper and smoke. Jace pushed himself up, boots sliding on frost. Memory returned in sharp, broken flashes. A KRYTH rating wing. Missiles in the dark. His desperate dive into a gravity while he did not know. Fire across the hull. A blackout. Then this. Alive, but very alone. Training took over. Shelter. Heat. Signal. In that order. He limped through the wreck, searching. He found an emergency pack lodged under a twisted spar. Inside, a small med kit, 2 nutrition bars, a multi-tool, a thermal blanket, and a tiny plasma igniter. Not enough for long. Maybe enough for tonight. The sky dimmed. The temperature fell like a stone. He used bent hull plates and insulation foam to shape a low wall against the wind. He stacked seat cushions for a floor. He gathered anything that would burn, ripped fabric, brittle brush that looked like dry coral, fibrous packing that smelled like hot plastic. His fingers shook as he thumbed the igniter. "Come on," he muttered. "Live." The spark kissed the scraps. A thread of flame ran across the fibers, then tried to die. He cupped his hands and fed it breath. The flame caught again, spread, and rose. Warmth licked his cheeks. Shadows moved over the ice like water. For the first time since waking, Jace felt something other than fear. He felt the idea of hope. Then he noticed the quiet. Since dusk, the frozen plain had ticked and clicked with small sounds. Tiny creatures chittering under the snow. The wind whining through metal ribs. Now, the world had gone still, as if holding its breath. The hair on his neck lifted. Jace reached for the pulse pistol at his hip and listened. Snow crunched behind him. He turned fast. 3 figures stood just outside the circle of light. Tall silhouettes. Lithe. Silent. Their skin shone like hammered silver and reflected the fire with a soft glow. They wore fitted bands and light fabric that looked made for speed, not warmth, yet they did not shiver. Long bows rested in their hands. Quivers rode their backs. Their eyes were pale and clear, and they did not blink much. The one in front stepped closer. She was lean and strong, every line built for the hunt. A braid lay over one shoulder like a rope of cold light. She lowered her bow a fraction, not in surrender, but in judgment. Weighing him, testing him. The 2 at her sides kept their arrows and Jace followed the silver-skinned strangers through the storm, his breath fogging the air in harsh bursts. The leader, Saris, she had called herself, moved like a ghost between the drifts. She didn't stumble, didn't slow. The other 2 glided behind her in silence, their footsteps barely touching the snow. Jace's legs burned, but pride wouldn't let him fall behind. The world around them was a grave of ice and wind. Towering ridges curved upward like the ribs of some ancient beast, and the air shimmered faintly with frozen crystals that caught the moon's light. Every sound felt amplified, the crunch of boots, the whisper of fabric, the distant groan of shifting glaciers. He'd trained for alien worlds before, but nothing like this. After an hour of climbing, they reached the top of a ridge. Below, a valley glowed faintly blue. Shapes moved within it, structures made of translucent ice and pale bone, lit from beneath by slow pulses of geothermal light. Thin trails of steam rose between them, twisting upward into the night sky. Saris turned to him. "The Hearth of Oral," she said. "Our home, hidden from the sky hunters." As they descended, faces appeared in the fog. More of her kind stepped from doorways and tunnels, tall, graceful, eyes reflecting firelight. Jace noticed the ratio immediately. Dozens of women. Only a few men, older or scarred. The others watched him like they weren't sure if he was prey, prize, or omen. They passed under a gate carved from a single arc of bone. Intricate markings lined its surface. Constellations, hunts, battles, and something that looked disturbingly like a human figure surrounded by fire. Jace slowed. "You've seen humans before?" Saris glanced back, unreadable. We've seen the sky burn before, she said simply. Inside the settlement, warmth spread from vents in the ice. The air smelled faintly metallic but sweet, like melted stone. Saris led him into a circular dwelling supported by columns of frozen crystal. Furs covered the ground. A shallow fire pit burned in the center, fed by blue flame that gave off light without smoke. Weapons hung along the wall. Curved blades, bone spears, arrows tipped with glassy shards that hummed faintly with energy. Sit, Saris said, gesturing toward the furs. You are cold. Weak. But you live. That is curious. Jace eased down beside the strange fire. I'm guessing most people don't crash here and make it through the night. No, she said. Most who fall from the sky do not wake again. She studied him for a moment longer, eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. You fought the KRYTH. He nodded. Raiders. They hit my patrol. I dropped into the atmosphere to lose them. Lucky fall, I guess. Saris tilted her head. Luck is for the unprepared. You built fire. You drew us. The storm would have buried you in hours. Jace smiled faintly. So lighting that fire saved me. Perhaps, she said, or perhaps it marked you. Before he could ask what she meant, a deep horn echoed across the valley. The sound rolled through the ice like thunder. Outside, the silver huntresses turned their faces toward the sky. Saris stood. The council summons me. They will want to see you. Jace's stomach tightened. Council? I didn't exactly plan to start an interstellar first contact meeting in my socks. Saris ignored the joke. You will answer their questions truthfully, but speak with strength. The Aurelie do not respect fear. She reached into a pouch and tossed him a small, glowing crystal. For warmth, she said, and for trust. When she stepped out into the cold again, Jace was left alone with the strange fire, his reflection rippling on the icy walls. He turned the crystal in his hand. It pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. Outside, the wind howled again, but beneath it, something else moved. Voices. Not human. Not kind. A rhythm like distant drums beating beneath the ice. Jace stared into the flames and whispered to himself. I think I just walked out of one crash and straight into another. The council chamber felt alive. The walls themselves seemed to hum, a low vibration that resonated in Jace's bones. The room was a perfect circle, its ceiling a dome of translucent ice through which the twin moons shone like pale eyes. A central fire pit glowed blue and gold, its flames whispering instead of crackling. Around it sat 7 Aurelie elders, each wearing bone adornments that marked their status. Every gaze fixed on him as he entered beside Saris. Jace tried not to show his nerves. His boots echoed on the ice as he stopped before them. He'd faced enemy commanders, pirate warlords, and court-martial tribunals, but none of that compared to standing half-frozen before 7 ancient alien huntresses who could likely kill him with a glance. The eldest among them leaned forward. Her eyes were whiter than snow, her hair a waterfall of silver braids. You fall from the heavens, Firebringer, she said. Why have you come to Oral's heart uninvited? Jace swallowed, forcing his voice to steady. I didn't mean to come here. My ship was damaged in a fight with the KRYTH. I took a dive to survive and crash-landed by chance. If I crossed your borders, I apologize. I didn't know anyone lived on this world. A murmur spread through the council. One of the younger huntresses, her face marked with geometric scars, rose slightly from her seat. He lies, she said sharply. The KRYTH do not chase prey this far into the frozen rim. He brings their scent upon him. Saris stepped forward, her expression firm. He speaks truth. I saw the wreck. KRYTH sigils marked the debris. There's shadow hunts here again. The elder turned to Jace. Then tell us, human, what are these KRYTH to your kind? Predators, Jace said simply. Slavers, raiders, killers. We've fought them before. They take resources and people. We try to stop them when we can. Stop them? Another elder scoffed. They burn our skies every season. What stops the storm of war? Jace met her eyes. You can't stop a storm, but you can survive it and make it regret coming back. That earned a few quiet murmurs. Saris's lip twitched, just slightly, in something close to approval. The eldest raised her hand. Human, what do you seek from us? Nothing, Jace said. I only need to repair my beacon, contact my fleet, and warn them the KRYTH are here. After that, if I can help defend your world, I will. Silence hung. Then a tall figure stepped from the shadows near the wall. A male O'Reilly, the first Jace had seen. Broad-shouldered, his skin the same silver sheen, his eyes sharp and measured. He carried a massive spear etched with glowing runes. This human tells truth, he said. Our outer scouts saw KRYTH lights 2 nights past. They prowl near the high glaciers. The elder nodded slowly. Then it is decided. We prepare for war. Before Jace could process that, the younger huntress who had accused him earlier, Mira, Saris had called her, stood again. You would trust him? She said, voice like a blade. He is one. Weak. A liability. Saris's gaze turned cold. He survived a crash in the long dark. He built fire when even the air tried to kill him. That is not weakness. Then let him prove it, Mira snapped. By our custom. Trial by worth. One challenge, one chance. If he endures, he earns his place. If not, he feeds the frost. A low murmur of agreement circled the chamber. Jace exhaled slowly. Trial by worth, he said under his breath. Sounds fair. Totally not terrifying. Saris stepped closer, her voice low enough only he could hear. You do not have to accept. Yes, I do. Jace replied, eyes steady. If I'm going to stand beside you when the KRYTH come, your people need to know I won't break. The elder struck her staff against the ground. Then it is set. At moonrise, the Firebringer will face the trial. Saris's jaw tightened, but she bowed in acknowledgement. He will face it, she said quietly. And he will endure. As they left the chamber, the wind outside roared like laughter. Jace walked beside Saris through the frozen streets, torches flickering blue against the snow. So, he said, trying to sound calm, what exactly is this trial? Saris looked at him with that unreadable silver gaze. You will face the night itself, she said. And if it does not take you, then perhaps Oral will finally call you one of us. Jace stared at her, half dreading, half thrilled. Great, he muttered. Can't wait to find out what that means. Above them, the twin moons rose higher, their cold light spilling across the icy world. The trial waited, and the storm beyond the horizon rumbled closer. The cold hit harder on the ridge than anywhere else. The wind screamed across the barren plain, tearing through armor and skin alike. Jace stood beside Saris, staring down at a massive crater glowing faintly in the darkness. It wasn't just a hole, it was a scar. A graveyard of ships. Hundreds of twisted hulls lay frozen in the ice below, some half-buried, others jutting out like broken teeth. Alien designs shimmered under frost. Curved, organic O'Reilly ships, sharp-edged KRYTH warcraft, and others, designs Jace didn't recognize. But one shape near the center stopped him cold. Its lines were human, blocky, functional, familiar. He stumbled forward. No way. The faded lettering on its hull read, UEF Horizon. An old Explorer-class ship. A human vessel, lost for decades. Saris followed his gaze. Your kind came before, she said quietly. Long ago. Only one survived. He lived among us until his heart stopped. He taught us the meaning of Earth, a word your people carry like fire. Jace pressed a gloved hand against the frozen metal. The surface was cold as death, yet his chest burned. He was from my world, he whispered. He must have crashed, stranded, just like me. Saris nodded. He became a legend. The Skyfallen. He taught us how to melt metal, how to trap heat, how to fight with purpose. Then he died, and his ship became sacred ground. Jace looked over the graveyard again. Dozens of ships entombed under the ice, the remnants of wars fought long before his time. This place, he said, voice low, isn't just a crash site. It's a battlefield. Yes, Saris said, where we stopped the KRYTH once before. But they return stronger each age. Each time, we lose more. The wind picked up, carrying a distant rumble. Thunder, or engines. Jace's instincts sharpened. He crouched, scanning the horizon. The KRYTH. Saris frowned. Too soon. The council said the scouts were days away. Then either your scouts were wrong, Jace said grimly, or we're already out of time. She stared into the storm, eyes narrowing. We must act before they do. Come, I will show you what your kind left behind. They descended into the crater, the snow crunching underfoot. The deeper they went, the warmer it became. Steam hissed from vents beneath the ice, filling the air with a strange mineral scent. At the base of the UEF horizon, Saris led him through a breach in the hull. Inside, the corridor slanted at an angle, filled with frozen control panels and hanging cables. The ship's lights were long dead, but traces of power still flickered in the walls. This place should not be alive, Jace muttered, brushing frost from a console. After 80 years, there shouldn't be any charge left. Perhaps it waits, Saris said softly. Like your fire in the night. Jace found the bridge. The captain's chair was toppled, the consoles blanketed in ice. He wiped one clean and exposed the faint outline of a United Earth Fleet insignia. Beneath it, a flickering diagnostic. Display blinked weakly, still running. What in the hell? Jace bent closer. The readout showed a system scan, and on the far side of the screen, dozens of red markers pulsed. KRYTH vessels, he said under his breath. Not old signals. These are live. Saris leaned beside him. How can that be? This ship still has its core partially active, Jace said. Enough to power sensors. It's tracking them. And they're moving fast. Saris looked at him. How long? Hours, maybe less. It's an invasion fleet, not a scouting party. The realization hit both of them at once. The O'Reilly settlement wasn't ready. The defenses were primitive. They couldn't stop a full assault. Saris turned sharply. Then we must warn the council. Jace grabbed her wrist. Wait. If I can tap into this ship's comms, I might reach the Earth fleet. We can call for help. Can you? She asked, eyes glinting in the dim blue light. I can try. He opened a panel, pried out old cables, and began connecting his personal interface module. I'll need power cells from my crash site. And time. Saris nodded slowly. You will have both. The O'Reilly owe you a chance to fight. He looked up. Her expression was hard, but behind it, he saw something else, a flicker of belief. Not blind faith, but the kind a soldier gives another when words aren't enough. Saris, he said, his voice low. When I send that signal, they'll come. Earth will come. And when they do, everything here changes. Forever. She studied him for a long, silent moment. Then let us make sure they arrive to find warriors, not ghosts. Outside, the wind roared again. The sky trembled with distant thunder, and the first flicker of alien lights broke through the storm. Jace tightened his gloves and looked back at the frozen bridge. Time to bring the past back to life, he said. And deep within the dead ship, a heartbeat of old power stirred. Lights flickered to life, one by one. Like embers reigniting after centuries of dark, snow fell in heavy sheets, turning the sky into a wall of white. The storm had returned with a vengeance. Every gust howled like a living thing, clawing at Jace's visor as he knelt beside the open console of the old UEF Horizon. His breath fogged the cracked display, and his fingers trembled from cold and exhaustion. Come on, he muttered, soldering the final wire. You've slept for 80 years, old girl. Wake up for me. A faint hum answered him. Then a spark. Then the deep, steady thrum of power. The ancient console flickered back to life, its screen pulsing with a soft amber glow. Data cascaded across it. Faded, corrupted, but readable. Huh, Jace shouted, slapping the side of the terminal. Knew you weren't dead yet. Behind him, Saris stepped from the corridor, snow melting on her silver armor. You speak to ghosts, she said, a hint of amusement in her voice. Sometimes ghosts listen, Jace replied. If I can boost the transmission, I can reach Earth Fleet Command. But they'll take time to respond. How much? 3 days, if I'm lucky. Maybe more. Saris frowned. The KRYTH moved faster than that. As if summoned by her words, a low boom echoed through the hall. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. Jace froze. That wasn't thunder. Saris sprinted toward the exit, Jace following close behind. Outside, the sky burned red. A flare rose from the northern horizon, then another, then 3 more. The symbols of KRYTH warfire. They've landed, Saris said grimly. Scouts first, then the main host. They must have tracked my crash beacon, Jace said, realization striking him. They're not here for random conquest. They came to finish what they started. A sharp horn blast cut through the storm. A hunter's alarm. Saris turned to him, eyes hard. We go? Now. They sprinted through the storm toward the O'Reilly settlement. The wind whipped their faces, stinging their skin like needles. By the time they reached the outer walls, chaos had erupted. The settlement blazed with movement. Warriors arming themselves, children ushered underground. the council calling orders through the wind. Terran, the war chief, met them at the gate. They strike from the east ridge. A small force, perhaps a test. Or a distraction, Jace said. They'll try to find your weak points before the main assault. Saris nodded. Then we'll give them nothing to find. She turned to a cluster of hunters. Prepare your bows. Silent arrows. No light. We take them before they see the hearth. Jace caught her arm. Let me come. You are not of our hunt, she said quickly. I'm also the only one here who's fought the KRYTH up close, Jace replied. You'll need someone who knows how they think. For a heartbeat, Saris hesitated. Then she gave a short nod. Fine. But you stay near me. Always. They slipped out into the white night. The storm swallowed sound, their footfalls silent under the snow. Jace's heart pounded with adrenaline. The world blurred into shifting shadows and flashes of pale blue light. Through the visor, his scanner picked up faint movement. 8 heat signatures, maybe 9. The KRYTH moved in formation, their armor glowing faintly red through the storm. Between them, smaller shapes struggled, Aurelie captives. Saris crouched beside a frozen ridge, her breath calm. Scouts. They take prisoners for questioning. Jace clenched his jaw. If they reach their landing craft, your entire defense plan is blown. Then they must not reach it, she said simply. Her hand flicked a signal. The Huntresses melted into the storm, fanning out in a perfect arc. Jace stayed low, pulse pistol ready. Minutes stretched. The KRYTH advanced, their harsh voices cutting through the blizzard. One raised a scanning beacon that emitted a crimson pulse. It swept across the snow, just shy of where Jace and Saris crouched. Then Saris moved. An arrow flew soundlessly through the storm, striking the beacon in a flash of blue sparks. The KRYTH spun, roaring warnings. Too late. Jace charged from the flank, pulse pistol blazing. His first shot caught a KRYTH soldier in the chest. The alien staggered, its armor flickering with static before it fell. The Aurelie Huntresses struck in unison, silver shapes gliding from the snow like wraiths. Arrows hit weak points in the black armor with deadly precision. The fight lasted less than 2 minutes. The last KRYTH tried to flee, limping into the fog. Saris raised her bow, but Jace grabbed her wrist. Let him go. Her eyes narrowed. Why? He'll report what happened. He'll tell them their scouts were wiped out by ghosts. Fear will slow them more than death. Saris studied him, then lowered her bow. You fight like one of us, she said quietly. Just doing my part, Jace replied, breathing hard. They turned to free the captives. The High Elder was among them. Her silver hair streaked with blood, but her eyes fierce. You brought the fire again, she said to Jace, voice trembling. The KRYTH will learn to fear it. He helped her to her feet. They'll fear a lot more than fire before this is over. Saris placed a hand on his shoulder, her grip strong and warm despite the cold. Come, she said. We have their dead. We have their weapons. Now we plan our war. As they marched back through the storm, Jace looked up at the crimson sky. The enemy was close, too close, but so was something else. The feeling he'd had since the crash, that his fight wasn't just about survival anymore. This world had chosen him, and he was done running. Dawn broke weak and cold over the valley, the light fractured by drifting snow. The Aurelie settlement was a storm of preparation. Hunters hauled weapons from hidden armories. Children carried bundles of arrows and cables through the ice tunnels. Every breath hung in the air like smoke from a coming fire. Jace stood at the edge of the ridge, his helmet off, hair stiff with frost. His eyes followed the horizon where dark shapes moved against the distant storm. He'd seen that pattern before, KRYTH landing formations. They were methodical, patient, and deadly. Beside him, Saris adjusted the strap on her bow, her expression carved from stone. They will strike before nightfall, she said quietly. Then we hit first, Jace replied. He led her and Warchief Terran back to the field of fallen stars. The graveyard stretched wide under the pale sun, a monument to forgotten wars. But now it pulsed with new life. Dozens of Aurelie worked in silence, hauling power cores, fusing old weapons, and stringing up emitter lines between the ancient hulls. Jace pointed to a half-buried UEF shuttle he'd spent all night working on. That wreck is our decoy. I've rerouted its reactor to emit false energy readings, heat, radio chatter, biosignatures. When the KRYTH scan this valley, they'll think the settlement is here. Terran's pale eyes flicked toward him. You mean to bait them into the crater? Jace nodded. Exactly. They'll unleash their bombardment first. When they move to secure the kill, we strike from below and behind. It'll force them into close combat. Your territory, not theirs. Saris looked down at the maze of trenches carved between the wrecks. And if they discover the truth before committing? Then we're all dead anyway, Jace said simply. So we make sure they don't. The plan spread quickly through the camp. Hunters camouflaged themselves in the wreckage, coating armor with ash and snow. Salvage power cells from his downed peregrine were wired into ancient O'Reilly weapons. Energy bows crackled with faint blue lightning. Children etched runes into arrows that glowed faintly in the dim light. As Jace moved among them, he realized the air had changed. The fear from the night before was gone. What replaced it was something stronger, determination. A collective calm that only comes when people decide not to die quietly. At midday, the High Elder herself came to the crater's edge. Firebringer, she said, her voice carrying over the wind. You have given us a hunt worthy of our ancestors. Jace bowed slightly. Let's make it a story worth telling. Hours passed. The world grew darker. A strange silence spread, heavier than the snow. Then, distant thunder. The sound of engines. Saris appeared beside him, bow in hand, hair whipping in the wind. They come. Jace scanned the sky. Through breaks in the clouds, black shadows appeared. Massive KRYTH carriers, their undersides glowing with the red pulse of plasma cannons. The ground trembled as they descended. Hold positions, Jace said into his communicator. Do not fire until I give the signal. The first bombardment came like the wrath of gods. Energy blasts slammed into the decoy valley, sending shockwaves through the ice. Fireballs rose, lighting the storm in shades of orange and crimson. The O'Reilly huddled in silence, the heat of destruction washing over them. They're taking the bait, Saris whispered. Moments later, drop ships peeled away from the KRYTH fleet, black claws descending toward the burning valley. Jace's heart pounded. Wait for it. Through the dust and fire, the KRYTH soldiers advanced in perfect formation, dozens of them, weapons glowing red, scanning the wrecks for survivors. They moved directly into the trap. Jace exhaled. Now, from every direction, the ice exploded. Blue energy spears lanced upward, slicing through the KRYTH ranks. Modified bows released storm after storm of explosive arrows. Shattered hulls came alive, their weapon cores reactivated for one final battle. The KRYTH screamed through static-laced comms, turning their fire toward unseen targets. But the crater's geometry betrayed them. Their shots ricocheted harmlessly off ancient armor plating. O'Reilly warriors poured from the tunnels, their silver bodies glowing like molten metal. Jace grabbed the controls of a mounted emitter, locking onto the nearest KRYTH transport. Let's see how you handle a taste of your own tech, he muttered. The beam fired, slicing clean through the vessel's wing. It spun out of control and crashed into the crater wall. Saris fought nearby, a blur of precision and fury. Her arrows struck with unerring accuracy, piercing the weak seams between KRYTH armor plates. When one soldier charged her, she drew twin blades and moved faster than Jace's eyes could follow. He joined her, pulse pistol in one hand, knife in the other. Back to back, they fought like synchronized machines. Every time she moved left, he covered right. Every time she faltered, he steadied her. The connection between them felt deeper than instinct. It was like they shared one heartbeat. A sudden explosion tore through the ridge above them. Jace looked up. The KRYTH command ship loomed overhead, its cannons realigning toward their position. They've found us, he shouted. Saris fired an arrow straight into the sky. The projectile split midair, releasing a flare of blue light, a signal. From across the crater, Terran's voice crackled over the comm. We see it. Shield generators active. A pulse of energy rippled over their heads just as the KRYTH cannons fired. The beam struck the invisible barrier, scattering into fragments of glowing plasma that rained harmlessly over the ice. Cheers erupted among the O'Reilly ranks. But Jace wasn't celebrating yet. Keep pressure on their ground forces, he ordered. If that command ship stays intact, we're finished. He sprinted to another control station, fingers flying over the panel. The surviving reactors of the old UEF ship were barely holding. Come on. Old girl, he whispered again. One last favor. The screen flashed green. Power rerouted. He aimed the main cannon toward the sky and fired. The blast hit the KRYTH flagship dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire rear section of the ship bloomed in silent fire. The massive vessel tilted, flames spewing into the clouds. As wreckage fell like stars, Sarah stood beside him, her face lit by the inferno. You did it, she said softly. No, Jace said, chest heaving. We did it. But even as he spoke, a new sound filled the air, distant, sharp, unmistakable. Fighter engines. And this time, the signatures were blue, not red. Saris frowned. More of them. Jace smiled, relief breaking through exhaustion. No, those are ours. Above the clouds, Earth fleet fighters broke formation, diving toward the burning valley. The cavalry had come. The battle wasn't over yet, but for the first time since he'd crashed on this world, Jace believed they might actually survive the day. Wrecked KRYTH ships fell like dying meteors, their crimson hulls breaking apart as Earth fleet fighters chased them through the clouds. The air vibrated with the sound of engines, cannon bursts, and the hiss of melting snow. The once silent world of Oral burned with light and noise. War had come, and it was ending fast. Jace stood in the crater's center, breath fogging inside his cracked visor. His pulse pistol was out of charge. His armor was scorched, but he was still standing. Around him, Aurelie hunters moved through the smoke, finishing what the orbital bombardment had begun. Arrows of blue energy streaked upward, meeting retreating KRYTH ships as they fled for the upper atmosphere. One by one, the invaders vanished. Then, silence. Jace lowered his weapon. His ears rang. The storm had gone, leaving only drifting embers that glowed faintly in the pale dawn. The field of fallen stars had claimed new stars tonight. Saris approached through the haze, her silver armor smeared with ash. A shallow cut traced her cheek, glowing faintly where her skin healed beneath the wound. She looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. It is done, she said. He gave a tired grin. You, Aurelie, have an interesting definition of victory. You humans, she countered, have an interesting definition of impossible. Before Jace could respond, a streak of light descended from orbit. A dropship. Sleek. Human. The insignia of the United Earth Fleet gleamed on its hull. It settled on the ridge with a hiss of steam, ramp lowering to reveal Captain Reeves and a squad of armored Marines. Reeves's eyes widened at the sight of the crater, the shattered wrecks, the smoldering ships, the alien warriors standing shoulder to shoulder with a single human. Lieutenant Rowan, he said, voice echoing through his helmet. You've got one hell of a report waiting for me. Jace laughed weakly. Yeah, it's a long story, sir. Includes frostbite, alien politics, and about 1,000 near-death experiences. Reeves stepped closer, surveying the surviving Aurelie. Impressive people, he said quietly, and clearly not in need of saving. Earth Command will want to establish contact, form an alliance, maybe even a joint defense pact. Saris crossed her arms, her tone calm but firm. We do not kneel to saviors. We fight beside equals. Reeves nodded respectfully. Then equals it is. He turned back to Jace. Command wants someone to represent us here. Someone they trust, someone the Aurelie trust. Think you can handle being our liaison? Jace hesitated, eyes flicking towards Saris. You're offering me a permanent assignment? More like a partnership, Reeves said with a small grin. Earth needs a bridge. You seem to have built one. When the captain walked away to oversee retrieval operations, Jace turned to Saris. Looks like I'm staying. Her gaze softened, though she didn't smile. You could leave if you wished. You have earned your sky again. He stepped closer. Maybe, but I found something better down here. They stood together at the rim of the crater, watching as Earth fleet medics treated the wounded Aurelie side by side with alien healers. Humans and silver-skinned warriors worked in quiet cooperation. Two worlds, no longer strangers. Saris's voice broke the silence. In our language, we have a word, Nrila. It means the one who brings light to the dark. You carry that name now, Firebringer. Jace smiled faintly. That's a lot to live up to. She touched the metal emblem on his chest. Then live up to it beside me. Their hands met, fingers locking in a gesture both human and Aurelie. Half salute, half promise. Above them, the dawn spread gold across the battlefield, washing away the smoke. For the first time since his crash, Jace let himself breathe. He thought of the wreck that had almost killed him, of the flame he'd built to stay alive, and of the night the light had drawn something far more dangerous and beautiful out of hiding. He turned to Saris. "You know," he said softly, "that first fire, it wasn't just for warmth. It was a signal. I didn't know it then, but I was calling for someone." Saris tilted her head, and someone answered. The camera would fade on that image, the human and the huntress standing amid wreckage and dawn, two survivors bound by battle and choice. Above them, human ships and O'Reilly gliders drifted together in peace. But far beyond Oral's atmosphere, in the cold black of space, a single KRYTH cruiser remained cloaked among the stars. Its sensors blinked alive, transmitting a final encrypted message toward the void. The war was over, but something even greater had begun.